Good evening, everyone out there. It is tonight. It's Monday night, the 10th of June, 2024, and we're heading into episode 141 of So What's Been Happening. It's been a little work in motion. This one on its push to episode 150. Hopefully we'll do something special for that 150th. But tonight we're joined by the Aerial Maps lead man, Adam Gibson. So that should be an exciting chat just shortly. So a little touch on King's birthday this year, a little bit different for us to celebrate. Same result for us, sadly, as Demon fans. We got done by the Pies, so thank God Melbourne Storm got it done to keep us Melbourneites a little bit happier. But congratulations once again to Collingwood. Sadly, that kills me to say that. But what can you do? You get the front up again the next week, and thank God we don't actually, because we've got a bye. So we get a week off to not only lick our wounds and think what could have been, but we will hopefully come back like all good teams do and have something to give. And speaking of comebacks, they had a little few years off in amongst their journey, this great band, the Aerial Maps. But we're going to talk to Adam Gibson right now. Actually, we're going to bring him up and have a chat about life in and around the great music that features the Aerial Maps. So welcome to episode 141. Also, what's been happening, Adam Gibson?
G'day, Aaron. Nice to be here. Very pleased to be here. Thanks for that.
No problem. It's awesome to have you. And thanks again, I must to Chris Hamilton, who's hooked us up and organised this chat for us. So thanks again, Chris. You're doing some amazing stuff with some great bands.
Yeah, the great man, Chris. Yeah, great fella.
Just on that, mate, how important is it to have someone in publicity these days sitting in your stable? Takes the pressure off the band, all as for one part, but also, so important in today's world.
Oh, look, I really think it's great. And I think it's a really important kind of a key thing to do does take the pressure off you, but it's also allows you to find yourself in nooks and crannies that you wouldn't have otherwise been into or recommended to, or people might might never have heard of us if not for a lot of the stuff that Chris has done and publicity people like Chris. But I think there's a really great scope for bands of our level to employ or deploy publicity guys of people like Chris or other people working in a similar field with kind of indie bands to kind of give it that gravitas, give it that sense of a point of contact, that it's not just the drummer or the bass player or the singer. It allows you to kind of have a sense of legitimacy and a sense of greater reach. And I think it's a really nice thing to do, and it's really it does take the pressure off certainly someone like me, so it's good.
Yeah, it does. There's so much you've expected of a band these days to be reaching and getting in amongst all the world of social media and everything, which is a bit of a challenge to guys a little bit older in the band coming through.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, I've worked online in different fields over the years, and so I'm fairly adept at a lot of things and in the media and stuff like that. But there's some of the stuff Chris has asked to me to just do, and I was like, I don't know how to do that, mate. I just don't know what that involves, But that's it's a really good thing to do in order just to find that greater reach. And as I say, find yourself in there's people there's receptive audiences out there for what bands of certain styles do, and if you've got the right person working for you in that capacity, they can kind of push you to that person, and you find fans or people who they go, I've never heard of you guys, I love you guys, blah blah blah, but they wouldn't have otherwise heard if person A, B, or Chris hadn't recommended it. So Chris Hamilton does great publicity job, and I've advocated and recommended him to a bunch of fellow bands.
Yep. Well, there goes. Big shout out to Chris.
Chris, that invoice is coming soon. They'll pay that shortly, mate.
Absolutely. And well, you might get a deduction now with a big pump up for Chris. Who knows?
That's right.
All right, we're going to touch on a song you put out in 2021, not so long ago, but it seems like so long ago now. The world's hopefully a slightly different place, but a great track titled "We All Need to Know There's Someone Out There in the Night." It's a big title, but it's a big song too. So have a listen to this one, and we'll play a little bit from this clip. Bit of an emotional one to kick us off there, Adam. It's a powerful message. It had people that went through such tough times in amongst not only that COVID era, but any tough times in general. So just tell us a little bit about that one, mate, and the meaning for the band.
Oh, well, yeah, it's, I think collectively for all of us in the band, there was I guess the song is about us striving for connection and trying to find find connection, but also remember that you've got connection out there on those lonely nights. COVID notwithstanding, or that whole period, certainly it was written before that, because it was about a subject which I'll mention in a second, but when we put it together and the clip together, it was all kind of coalesced around that COVID era. So everyone, all the guys in the band went out and individually filmed bits and their take on what they were experiencing, and sent it. We pulled it all and made the clip like that. And so you've got Peter Fenton there up on the El Alamein fountain in King's Cross, which is usually, it's packed and there's people everywhere. It's deserted except for the one fella wandering the night with some sort of lantern, and Peter set the camera up there, and the guy, was drawn to it, and it's an interesting kind of connection there to the idea of connection. So Pete was filming, and this guy was drawn towards him, and just magic little happenstance moment there. And Mark Nana was filmed outside the Enmore Theatre on Enmore Road there, and various walks along there deserted, and places which are always really busy, and a real sense of loneliness around that time, which echoed in a wider sense among individually, as we all felt, I think. So it was an individual thing of that era, but it was also about a wider idea of connection in our lives, in all facets, in all fashions, at all times. Big part of the impetus of that song was, and the reason why it's kind of an important song for us to play at different times, is that Simon Holmes, who I started the aerial maps with, took his own life back in the 2017, and who knows the stories and circumstances of individual lives, but you always get the sense of you want to try and be there as best as you can for people, and it's just a call to arms to say, look, people care for you, people love you. I'm here, I'm out there in the night. We all need to just remember that there's others out there in the night who will, reach out. I mean, some people, they don't want to reach out, and it's their prerogative in a way. It's their decisions. But you just try to. That song is a call to arms to say, even on the worst times, when you're feeling. I mean, me personally too, when I felt really, really bad about different circumstances or whatever, just try to remember that there's someone holding the flame, and it might be an ex-lover or an ex-mate from school, a guy from the footy team, a girl from the surf club, or it might even be your own spirit that you just need to remember still holds the flame for you, So I think for all of us, for Alana, for Mark, for Nana, for Jasper, for Pete, I should say, and Pete and Jasper, it brings something together in a cohesive fashion. I think one of the things about the band, certainly my ideas about life, is to try and build some sort of communal warmth and communal openness, and try and create a space where the nostalgic, romantic stuff that we talk about can find common ground with others, and hopefully people can find a sense of belief and belonging in a small community that may think the same way as they do in certain ways, and relate to certain songs or ideas and things like that. So it is to finish on that note, it is an important song to us. Yeah,
it's an incredible, powerful one, but just some powerful lyrics that you probably at the time don't realize their true power, I guess. And it's not till you combine with some of those amazing visuals that it all, just beautifully captured. Who edited all that footage in amongst that period?
Oh, well, that would have been me. I've done a few fine arts degrees and stuff like that. I'm not by no means a video maker or filmmaker at all, but I just I dabble in that stuff, and I was talking to Pete Fenton last night about this, actually, this very point. You know, I think it's great to outsource things often, to allow other people to have their kind of take on the vision and their interpretation of it sometimes. But sometimes I feel like you need to keep the vision in-house. You know, we need to do it. We need to shape it ourselves, because other people, their aesthetic or their way of operating might not be the way. I certainly operate on a very spontaneous kind of spur of the moment basis, and I like the beauty of happenstance and putting things next to each other, even if it's in recording in a studio. If I make a mistake or there's a weird note, or I like that, you know, fracture in the mix, you know. So when I made these videos, I've done a few of our videos, and I like to get that weirdness in there that's not refined or particularly sort of you know, dogmatic about its precision. I like the beauty of mistakes and happenstance, and the ideas of just things colliding. So yeah, so I made the video.
Yeah, it's a beautiful touch, and it's really well put together. And oddly, around those kind of tough times, some magic was created. Really, you guys were lucky enough to not go through the harsh lockdowns that Melbourne and Victoria did, but I can truly appreciate the magic that's formed part of that clip. So congratulations and thanks.
Oh, thank you. Look, yeah, it's one of those things where I have so many friends in Melbourne, in Melbourne bands, and just friends who, well, actually, they're all usually associated with music. And I was feeling the pain. You know, we all felt you know, we might have been in Sydney, but we were still in lockdown as well. But you guys went way longer. But it was a collective sort of ache that we all had. My brother lives in Indonesia, was in Bali. He couldn't come back here. My mum was ill. My mum passed away during that time. My brother had to come back and do quarantine in order just to see our mum. And luckily, he finished quarantine the day, got out, and she died the next day. It was almost like mum was hanging on, you know, and there was a multitude of stories like that. So it's this collective bruise that we have from that era. I tend not to kind of dwell on that era too much now. We've all been through it. We all went through it. We all move on. Some people did it harder. And I actually know a few friends who, again, took their own lives right in that time as well. So it was pretty bloody hard. Yeah, shit. You know, it's hopefully we can find something. If we can find something, we could get good out of that, whether it was a sense of resilience or a sense of making sure we keep connection with people, or the fact we learned to make sourdough bread, you know, or we started to knit, you know. Let's try and carry on and use that terrible experience as a fuel for future fires.
Definitely. Was there any other magic that kind of came out of it for you? How did you go about that kind of period? Was there any songwriting that kind of took place during that time, or what happened with you?
Yeah, it is one of those things where it is a real blur for me, the whole era, because, as I say, my mum died in 2020, you know, the first year of it. So, you know, talking to people, they say, oh, you know, I can't even remember 2021 or 22. I know we released the last album in 21, but it's all a bit, yeah, it's very hazy. It's very, I think I was obviously grieving, and the deep sense of grief that, you know, the grief's like a big fog over your head. And yeah, I think, I you know, we all went through different types of things, but for me personally, the whole era, and I only feel like I'm just coming out of it kind of in the making of this last album to push forward and you know, embrace the new, and look at that period and just, you know, wipe it out, almost edit that bit out.
Yeah, absolutely. But a really good point made here. We realised how important music performance was, and how much we missed it. Not just music performance, but how much music actually meant to us during that time. There's a lot of bands and people I've connected with here that we talk about what they listened to during that period. And for probably once in a long time, we actually got to sit down, and probably days and weeks happened where we actually listened to full albums again. And found new music. So there was definitely some during those challenging times. There were definitely some emotional and outpouring times, but we found some magic in amongst that as well. And some
absolutely, yeah, there was certainly that. You know, we did one show where it was a live stream show with no audience, which was, you know, it was really one of our best shows we've ever done. It was one of these at a venue in Sydney, but there's nobody there. You know, my girlfriend and the bar staff and the sound guy. You know, but it was we were able to use visuals, and we brought in the green screen kind of effect and stuff like that. So yeah, that we did that, but we certainly miss playing live as well. And you know, that visceral thrill of seeing a twin guitar attack, also a great guitar pop song, or being right there in the moment. Yeah, it was. We're still making up for lost time.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're going to talk about Eucalyptus Road in a second. We're going to play a little 30-second odd bit of that clip.
Okay,
here we go.
We've found a little patch of dirt. It's up there safe on Eucalyptus Road. We're gonna try hard to make it work. If it's the last thing that we do, just me and you.
When was the last time we went out dancing? But it's cyclone season now.
Gonna grow us a veggie patch, maybe even get a few chooks. You know, all those dreams I had, well, they're gonna come true by the looks up on Eucalyptus Road. Up on Eucalyptus Road.
When was the last time we went out dancing? But it's cyclone season now.
There you go, Eucalyptus Roads. Beautiful clip, well shot. Once again, a little bit of magic in there from you, I'm sure. But congratulations on that one.
Oh, thank you, mate. Yeah. Well, that was no, I didn't actually make that one. That was I got a filmmaker mate of mine who was adept with the drones and all that sort of stuff. So again, that was a rare case when we did outsource it. And I think the result was really special. And it's funny, it's in the same time signature as the other one, I think. It was, you'll need to know. We got some filmmaker mates to come into the studio while we were there recording that song. And I really wanted to capture the idea that these things don't just happen. You don't just get a CD and the song exists. You know, we had to kind of view that song from the ether and try and make it, you know. So there's a making of the album, which a YouTube clip, which shows how we're actually grappling with making that song. And I was actually overseas, and Pete would send me some music, and or Lana or whatever, but it was in that case Pete, and we're trying to work out this new song. So they've got this idea. It's this sort of looking for a sense of safe haven, or a place where you know, there's of safety and, you know, sort of escape from the world. And Pete said, "Oh, what about this music?" I said, "Yeah, leave it with me." And I listened to it, and I was going over it. Then I just kind of heard the line, "When was the last time we went out dancing?" And I kind of could hear Lanny singing it, and I threw the line out. I just said it to her, and she came up with the melody, and just from there the song grew, and we pieced it together. And I had these old lyrics that I tweaked and put onto it. So we really there's a real the whole recent new album is a very much a collective experience where we really worked together and found ways and means to create songs. And get them, get them off the ground and get them finished.
Yeah, it's such an old line when we last go out dancing, but such a beautiful reference to kind of when it was the last time we went out and had fun almost.
Yeah, that's the idea for sure. Yep.
And tell us a little bit about this beautiful cover for it too.
Oh yeah, well, that's it's taken from the actual clip. All the footage from that film clip was filmed up near Bellingen in New South Wales, a little town called Bellingen, which is on the sort of mid-north coast, just about an hour or 40 minutes from Coffs Harbour, south of Coffs Harbour. Beautiful little town. It's like it's a well-known town, but it's sort of a Byron Bay without the Byron Bay in it. It's still got a bit of old school farmer vibes. It's very, very rustic. It's a lovely little town. And my mate who made the actual clip, he said, "Oh, I need you to come up here. I've got my friend owns a property up here, and she wants us to film there. Let us film there." I said, "Mate, look, leave it with me." And so I arranged for my girlfriend's birthday. We actually combined it with a birthday trip, and we went up there and shot all those scene shots up there. So yeah, that clip, that photo, the image on the cover is you're driving up to this amazing property. I wish I owned it,
Yeah, it's beautiful. Absolutely. So just flashing back a little bit, mate, your first memories of kind of music for you, what were they in the house when you were growing up? What was spinning on the LPs there?
Oh yeah, right. Well, my father was a big band musician back in the day, and my father was, when we were little kids, he was quite a well-known big band leader. He played the Palm Court and in St Kilda down there, and it was all over Australian kind of big band hall era, and he was 56 when he had me, so he'd sort of lived this whole life. He'd be 112 now. I'm exactly his age when he had me, actually. So he'd lived this whole life and traveled around the world and played in big bands. And by the time I was born and growing up, we were living in a little house in North Bondi before it was, the multi-million-dollar suburb it is now. And just the sort of, he'd kind of moved from the big stages of Australia to the Trocadero, the Palais, the Palm Court, to a little house in North Bondi, and still playing shows and still doing his concerts here and there. So we grew up with that as our experience of growing up, to the Lord Mayor's Command performance in Brisbane or some show at the Musicians Club in Melbourne. And so we always saw Dad on stage, and we always were listening to this big band music, and that kind of was just in our life. And it was, it's like if your dad's a mechanic or your dad's a plumber or electrician, it's pretty easy to say, I'm going to go into that trade, So my brother and I kind of always saw our dad on stage. So it was like no big deal for us to get involved with music, not in a wanky way, not in a precocious child way. It was just like we were into the Clash and Husker Du and the Jam and Bad Religion and all these punk bands and Black Flag and stuff. And Dad didn't care as long as we were playing music. We used to belt out Celibate Rifle songs in the basement and have a cover band playing all that stuff. And he didn't care. It wasn't Glenn Miller or the big band stuff. He was just happy we were playing music. So that was the environment which we grew up in. And the first actual rock and roll band I saw was Status Quo. I was a massive Status Quo in the neighborhood we lived in. All the kids, there was an older kid who just happened to have really good taste in music, as is kind of a common story you hear, about the older kid introducing it, and he was playing as Devo and the Sex Pistols like in the late 70s, and when then Status Quo to it, I don't know whether it must have been like 76 or 77. They played the Festival Hall in Brisbane. I was 8 years old, and we made our dad take us up to Festival Hall. We were staying in Surfers Paradise. We went up to Festival Hall. He used his connections. We sat in the sound box and sound booth and watched Status Quo. It was my first gig experience. I fell asleep after about, a few songs, but I do remember it.
Not a bad first concert to be at, for sure. And when you were old enough to purchase your kind of first vinyl, have you got a memory of what that was and whether you've still got it today in the collection?
I know for a fact I don't still have it, but it's kind of yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was really into, as I say, we're really into the Clash. Was a really big band for us. A lot of surfers in Bondi, wherever the Clash was a really big band. London Calling was a formative record on all the Give 'Em Enough Rope, all the early Clash albums. I think I'm just trying to remember I can't remember what the first one was, but it was probably Give 'Em Enough Rope or something like that. I certainly was into, but I personally was also into. Like early on there, I was really into like Joe Jackson and the Big World album was one of my favorite albums because it spoke to this really expansive vision of the world, which I kind of still have myself, like trying to get this widescreen view of the world in. So that was a massive album for me. I love Billy Joel. Oh, that's it. That's the album. That was the one. The Billy Joel Innocent Man was my favorite album back in the day. I don't know how old I was. It was like 1981 when that was released, I think. But that was the real key album for me,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but certainly as we went along and moved into kind of playing in bands in the late 80s, my brother was playing the drums and I was playing saxophone or bass, and we really got into the Sydney scene that really established around then of the Hummingbirds and all that waterfront bands and that Happy Hate Me Nots and the Celebrate Rifles were in there, and there was a really fertile scene, and that's when things really kind of exploded for me. And ironically, there was Crow and the Hummingbirds now in the aerial maps. There were members of Crow and a member of Hummingbirds. So my long-term plan has been cunning plan has been fulfilled.
Beautifully harnessed over time.
Yeah.
It's great to see. And your songwriting kind of prowess, where's that come from in your world? What's been your biggest influences there?
Yeah, I was always writing words, and there was a movie. I loved Bruce Springsteen, of course, and there was a movie which kind of like a quasi Bruce Springsteen story that was called Eddie and the Cruisers. I don't know whether you remember that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
In that movie, there was a guy who was the word man. He was the guy who wrote the words, and I was always I was more interested in words than kind of chords or song structure or anything like that. And I still kind of am, I still am. The other guys, the rest of the band generally, I mean, I might come up with some basic chords, but it's generally them who run all the musical direction, which is, obviously under the guidance of me, and it has to feel right for me. But I've always, number one, is being interested in words, and that came from there was various influences there, like Jack Kerouac doing his spoken word. So a lot of the stuff I do is the spoken word style stuff, and came from Jack Kerouac doing spoken word with Steve Allen, the beat poetry kind of thing, and all that kind of jazz stuff with spoken word. Then I realized it was a valid way to actually kind of write songs or perform. But the key thing that gave me the influence or the idea there was Midnight Oil were very massively influential on my life. From I started high school in 1980, and everyone had on their surfboards or because everyone surfed in Bondi in those days, had on their boards or on their school bag had this hand. I didn't know what this was. It was like. So I went to high school and I understood that suddenly this is the Midnight Oil symbol. It's the hand. And next thing you know, a mate of mine made me a cassette of Head Injuries and Place Without a Postcard albums. And, I literally listened to those 2 albums back to back every night for probably 3 years. It just completely opened my mind to talking about Australia, talking about Australian things and the validity of that and giving that a sense of validity. And also there was elements in there where Peter Garrett would sort of speak some of the lyrics. Certainly in a couple of the later albums, Midnight Oil albums, there was a spoken aspect to it. And there was one or two bits in there. It was, when the Spinifex hit Sydney, it was the last thing we expected. When the desert reached the Gladesville, we tried to tame it. When the emus grazed at Piermont, it suddenly dawned on us all. And to me, that was like, he's speaking. I can do this. I'm not a singer as such, but I was a writer and a poet, kind of spoken word performer. And there was the key for me, So I've taken that little idea and extrapolated it now into 5 or 6 albums overall,
Yeah, and I think you've done it beautifully. I definitely see the resemblance, and I was a massive fan, still am, of Midnight Oil, and everything they've ever done, and all the musicians that have come through, which is incredible that you've got a connection through this now with Jim Magini in amongst this album. Just tell us a little bit about that, how that's kind of come about.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, it's one of those things, you kind of construct your dreams, or you hold your dreams somewhere. And I have this, I have a motto, kind of, it's from Kerouac. It's something you feel will find its own form. So something you feel will find its own form. I mean, I'm not a sort of a, sycophantic person. I don't suck up to people. I don't, kind of beg and scrape around well-known people or ask to be invited into any situations, but things have just rolled onward. And I came to know Jim through various mutual friends, and Pete Fenton's got a good connection with him from earlier records that he did with Crow and solo albums and stuff like that. And one thing led to another, and Jim had became aware of our first album, In the Blinding Sunlight, back in 2007, and I had a beer with him at friend's party back in the, however long ago. And he said, I really love that record, and we just, maintained a contact over the years. And it came probably 5 or 6 years ago. Pete Fenton and I went over to Jim's studio over there at Brookvale in Sydney, which is in Bondi. It's the other side of the harbour. It is a bit like Melbourne, the other side of the river down. So it's it's not that far, but it seems a million miles away, Yeah. We went over, Pete and I went over there to have a chat with Jim, have a cup of tea, and have a chat about the idea of working there. And at that time, I was looking after my elderly mum, and there was a lot of stuff going on. It didn't come to pass, but this time around, after COVID and after a sense of let's do this record, it was let's see if we can talk to Jim again. And, one thing led to another, and we just got the ball rolling. And, he was a legend to work with. And after a while, you're just sitting there and go, he's a music fan, and he's a very generous and very open fella. And he's very private. He doesn't sort of want a million people there coming and saying, oh, how are you, Jim? He likes to sort of keep it tight and get the work done, and he's a musician at heart. So it was great to work with. It was a really great experience.
Yeah, he's got an incredible talent, an incredible ear for what shouldn't be there too. But spoken word, it's a beautiful way to get the lyrics across. I think it's super underutilized, to be perfectly honest, out there in the world. But yeah, you're right. I didn't realize even as a kid what sort of impact Peter Garrett and the magic that could come of that. As political as a lot of it was and still is, there's a magic that comes from it. But the way you deliver some of your lines too, there's some incredible power in that. So long may spoken word may continue.
Well, I think, it's like people might on the one hand say, oh, it's bloody easy to do that. Anyone can do that. It's like, there was the Archibald Prize, the big art prize in Sydney in the New South Wales Art Gallery. The winner was announced the other day. It was a photo of a painting of Tim Winton. It's the old story you look online. Oh, my 12-year-old could have done that. Oh, I could do that. It's kind of like, yeah, but you didn't. You didn't do it. That artist did it, and it was pretty bloody good painting. I'm not saying that. I'm saying about spoken word. I'm not putting myself on any pedestal at all. I try and do it as plain and as unadulterated as possible. And I think, if you put notes on it, you put sort of emphasis and try to overdo it, it really comes across as inauthentic or lacks power. That's my own experience. I've heard people I hear. I mean, there's a few really great bits of spoken word that I've heard in recent years, which I love, but it's I try and do it with a musical sense as well. There's,
Sure.
I'm coming in at certain points for a particular reason. I'm not just, free versing like, Allen Ginsberg or something on,
Yep, definitely. Yeah, definitely. That's beautiful. All right, we're going to touch on the latest single you put out, Any Summer Day.
Mm.
Well, let's play a little bit of this.
We beheld the beach at night, the sunburn the day, your blue eyes down at Clovelly, all the world at play.
Any summer day, my friend, any summer day, we will find our way again. Any summer day,
I've traveled a long, long road, a point from here to there, from that summer lost in time, and that place we shared on that summer day.
any summer day, my friend, any summer day, we will find our way again. Any summer day.
Potato scallops in the afternoon, the salt upon your lips. You dance like a miracle, my hand across your hips. So we beheld the beach at night, in these bushfire days. You and me down at Clovelly, on this summer day, on this summer day.
Any summer day, my friend, any summer day, we will find our way again. Any summer day, any summer day, my friend, any summer day, we will find our way again. Any summer day, any summer day, my friend, any summer day, we will find our way again.
To be honest with you, Adam, it's too good to cut off 30 seconds in. I said I was going to play a little 30-second clip, but is there any other day that's better than a summer day? Think about all the eras that you talk about. You talk to grandparents and you talk about all the great summer trips. That just evokes such great emotions.
Yeah, mate. Well, that seems to be the big headline days of your life seem to play out usually on a summer day in some respect, wherever you are in the world. There's the legendary summer of '95 in London at the King's Head Tavern or something in Earl's Court. You know what I mean? You have these memories of moments that occurred. Notting Hill Festival in '96 for me, or the time in St Kilda at the Esplanade Hotel in 1989 when I saw such and such a band. Yeah, those things. Summer seems to underline a lot of those great moments of our lives. So it was a song to celebrate it.
Sure, and a great cover too. Just tell us a little bit about this one. Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
shot. Where was that?
Oh.
Where was that taken from?
Well, that's from the same, again, from the clip. It was filmed. Has another one of my clips. You know, just we've done this on a budget this year. This time, I made that clip, and I went to my girlfriend. My girlfriend lives at Clovelly, which is another beach, few beaches south, and that's Clovelly Beach there. And we one day borrowed a little GoPro camera and went for a swim essentially, and that was what it was. And it was a booming summer day, as you can see, and it was, you couldn't get a piece of, well, there's not sand there, it's concrete on either side, but you could barely get a piece of concrete to sit on. So it was just a let's go for it. And it was last summer where it was particularly hot. There was a lot of Sydney was booming. I don't recall any rainy days, so it was hot all the time. So a lot of all those clips are capturing that. Some of it's in Fremantle. My girlfriend comes from Fremantle, WA, and Bondi and Clovelly. So this is amalgam of Australian summer all chucked in.
Yeah, it's beautiful heat in amongst that one, and it seems to be getting hotter that we talk about. So it's ironic. Well, not so much ironic. Maybe it's perfectly put into this title of Our Sunburnt Dream, which is a new album. June 21st comes around very quickly for this release, mate. What can you tell us about putting this one together? Great little album cover too. I love the colours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, we grappled over the album cover, and I was talking to I caught up with Pete Fenton last night. We don't see each other all that often, the band, when we're not in the zone of recording or rehearsing. Certainly when we got shows going to come up, which we're going to start to convene. But I caught up with him last night for a beer, and he and I talked about we'd settled on another cover earlier on, and I was like, guys, we've got to get this done. We've just got to get this done, and let's lock it in, And we had Jen Huntley, a girl named Jen Huntley in Melbourne, who's the partner of Mick Thomas, the great Melbourne singer-songwriter. Mick is her husband. And she'd come up with this amazing work. It does all our artwork. And at the last minute, Pete Fenton was saying to me, mate, I'm not happy. don't really like the cover. I don't think it's strong enough. So he and I came over again, caught up for a beer, and just went through a bunch of different things. And then that's a painting of mine. And I'm a painter also by training at art school, and I just sent in this photo one day of painting. It's up behind my wall here. It's up there somewhere. And it just suddenly worked for all of us. It's like, that's what we're looking for. The other one wasn't hitting the mark, So we talked to him. I talked to him last night saying, I'm really glad that he made us go that extra little bit to make that happen, get it right, because the album has a thematic kind of underpinning where it's to do with the landscape and to do with environment, and that cover captures that, heat, dryness, flood, fire, or the whole thing. It's all in there in the record.
Yeah, it sure does. It's a beautiful record, and congratulations with it. Can't wait to get it out, I'm sure, in the big wide world. It's not far away, June 21. People, it's coming out. Vinyl, digital, LP, it's coming out every way you can imagine. Make sure you try and get out and support the area maps. When can we see you out there next, Adam? Are you going to start touring this album?
Yeah, we're just locking in some shows now where we're just sort of in the, not in the point where we can actually announce them, almost there, but just trying to lock in a few things. So looking at Sydney show in August, around the middle of August there, and we're looking at Melbourne and Brisbane. A lot of all the guys in the band play in different bands and have other commitments and different things. Certainly Aero Maps is one of a lot of things that we do, but it's certainly something we all do convene at the right times for when the time comes. But we're just working it out now. So as I say, we certainly love playing in Melbourne, and we always have gone really well there. And I've always, I grew up listening to Paul Kelly and Mick Thomas and a lot of Melbourne bands, Nick Cave and many, dozens of other Melbourne bands were important. And I think I love going there and playing, and I also love going to Brisbane, played a lot of good shows up there, but also other points in between. I want to get to farther afield and stuff this time, but we've got to count the pennies,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit tough this side of outside of the next couple of years or last couple of years after COVID. It's really getting tough out there as far as venues being tightening up, people not out there supporting as much as they used to. Festivals are drying up, sadly, and so a lot of venues. So please get out there and support local music again, and big international acts as well are sort of starting to come back with a little bit more confidence, I think you find. Probably the dollar is probably looking a bit better for them than it is for us. But it's fantastic to have great music being put back out there again, Adam. So good luck with this project. Just tell us a little bit about the name, mate. We must touch on the aerial maps. Where did it come from?
Oh, the band name. Yeah, interesting. I'd had that in my head for quite a while as a band name for, probably a decade before I even formed the band. I was one of those people who always has a book with me, and I'm always writing different ideas. I've had many different names of bands that I was thinking of were possibilities. I've got the punk band, I've got the this band, but the Aerial Maps was a name that had always been strong in my head as something that would capture what I was kind of about, because what I am about is that sense of the land and the kind of surveying the land, trying to divine stuff out of the land and from people's stories, or the sense of the weather, or the way the wind blows in Northcote. Is it the north wind on the hot summer day? Is it the south wind when it's cold? Or I'm very much about the landscape, sheep graziers alerts down in the Monaro or the Mundi Plain. Just I'm really very have this idea of the land it's in my being. I don't know why. I grew up in coastal Australia, but I've always had this great sense of the raw land of Australia, just rolling all the way out there to the West Coast. And it was in 2006. I went to Paris to do to be a writer, to write the novel, and I kind of barely wrote a word. I sat in cafes and got drunk and didn't really write a word, but I had a great time. But I came back there, I was heartbroken. I broke up with someone I'd met over there, and I was on my way back to Australia, and I just somewhere over the central Australia, dawn broke as the plane was flying across to the east coast of Sydney, and I just looked down and I saw this great red earth and the salt pans and the salt encrusted lakes and the ridges of sand dunes, and I was like, that's our country, it's my country, that's the place I love. What I kind of had to go away and come back and then see it from above, and then I looked down and suddenly it was just like the aerial maps. That's it, and it sounds cosmic or spiritual or wanky, but it was really as pure and true as that. And kind of when I landed, I was like, right, I'm finally going to do that spoken word based band, mainly spoken word, but with just trying to evoke that landscape sense. And within a few months we went into the studio and recorded the first album, which we didn't really know what the hell we were doing, but I listen to it now, and it has something that, far be it for me to say, but I feel like it's got some sense of that space and distance within it, which is what I'm totally always about. So the name is a really good banner on which to hang all of these other stories and visions and ideas under.
Yeah, and I think it's a really fitting name to probably what we could do a little bit more, is to actually sit away and not be in the moment necessarily, and actually sit back and reflect and be above it to some degree, and look back on some of the beautiful things that have formed the landscape that we are lucky enough to be involved in and call this amazing country home.
That's a really good way of putting it. It's a really good point. Yeah, that's I actually hadn't thought of it like that, but it is, in a way you put it there. It's yeah, just so sit back and kind of view it a bit and engage with it, but also just pan across it a bit,
Yeah. Well, good luck with the album, most importantly.
Thank you.
And thanks for the chat tonight. Our Sunburnt Dream is out 21st of June. Please jump on. Obviously, the aerialmaps.com is the first spot, but also onto the Bandcamp version, and make sure you get out there. What I'd love to see is that people jump on and gift this beautiful album to a friend of theirs that they may not know, as far as they've never heard this music before, but I guarantee you they'll be appreciative of it. So, Adam Gibson, thank you so much for joining us, mate, on episode 141. We could talk for easily another hour about some great stories of the band, but let's touch base when you do have some shows locked in, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in the coming months.
Great, Aaron. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me on. And, it's guys like you and people like you doing that kind of the hard yards for, Australian music and music from everywhere. That it's really vital and really important. So, we really appreciate it. So thanks very much, mate.
No problem. I appreciate those kind words. And we'll see you out there at a gig very soon, Adam. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Aaron. Cheers, mate.
What a beautiful moment to spend an hour of Adam Gibson's time chatting about the aerial maps. Look forward to being out there at a venue soon, very, very soon, actually. And I'd like to thank, I need to update this list, but all these beautiful people that have been part of our journey so far in amongst 141 shows. Please get out there and see local music. Boy, do they really need your assistance. Local venues, grab a mate that you haven't caught up with for a while and tell them you're coming to see a band, and get out there and enjoy it, because I'm sure you will. See you soon. See you this Wednesday night. We've got another chat coming up, soon to be advertised. See you soon.